Okay, so welcome to my spoiler review of Transformers Rise of the Beast. This is for people who have seen the movie, and if you're watching this and you're saying, well, I don't really care about the Transformers, the Michael Bay movies kind of sucked, so I'll just watch spoiler review. I highly recommend you watch this one because, like I said in my non spoiler, this is the best Transformers live action movie we've gotten. He's still a producer on this one because obviously he started the whole live action thing with the first five movies, but these movies are not only are they a far cry from what he was doing, they're actually good movies, Bumblebee and Transformers Rise of the Beast, and it's the best one since the 86 movie in my opinion, but also I was told by at least two of my friends that are Transformers fans that this movie and Bumblebee is a complete reboot. That Bumblebee was originally supposed to be a prequel and it acted as such, but that at some point they said this is a complete reboot. So there you go. I mean, I guess that's what they say. So again, if you've seen the movie, let's go ahead and get to my thoughts on the actual plot points. So the movie actually starts with the Maximals. Going into it, I thought it was going to be the Maximals and the Autobots meet, which they do, but I thought it was going to be mostly the Autobot story or mostly the Maximal story with the Autobots being involved. But it really became sort of like this, this ancient, like long-term feud with Unicron and the Maximals. Well, Unicron in the universe, him absorbing planets and whatnot, the Galactus of this universe. And basically, what ends up happening is, it's that long thing. So Ape Link is there now. Ape Link is, if I remember correctly, Ape Link was like a variant, like toy of Optimus Primal. Well, anyways, he basically has this transwarp key that can open up portals in space, and Unicron wants that because they can go from planet to planet at a much faster rate without having to take the long way, the old ways, like Darkseid said. And I like this because it really did set up, the story of the importance of the key, the Maximal story, and all this, and Unicron. But the problem was, and Scourge, of course, Scourge. The problem though is that the movie, if you're a Beast Wars fan and you wanted more of the Maximals, you don't see them again for a long time. They cut to the human stuff, and we go to Brooklyn with Noah and his little brother. And I kind of was hoping it would be more of like a story between the two, but it wound up just being, I mean, there was a story, but he wasn't. It wasn't like a buddy brother adventure. It was him and of course the chick that works at the museum, Dominique Fishback's character, Elena. I like the dynamic between Mirage and Noah. I liked it a lot more than the stuff with like Shia LaBeouf and Bumblebee. Like I thought that this just was a better fit. Mirage is a much more likable character, and he has a great character arc in the story. And I do like kind of what he does and how he's kind of like the glue between the brother and Noah. Like that was all good stuff. The scene at the museum. I mean, first of all, the chase scene in the streets with Mirage was freaking awesome. Like, we've seen this before, but having it take place in 1994, I had this weird feeling of just a lot of nostalgia because a lot of movies that take place in the past, obviously I wasn't alive for, like movies in the 70s and 60s, but I was alive in 94. I was alive. I was a kid, but I was alive. And just living in a world before the internet and before television and before cell phones, it almost feels like it's another world. It almost feels that way. But they're sitting there calling each other Sonic and Tails, who had been somewhat new characters at the time, not super new, but new enough. Him and his brother. The they tried so hard to tell you this movie's in the 90s. The kid had a Power Ranger shirt on. He was playing a Game Boy. Like, it just felt, but it still felt familiar. It still felt like I was actually looking for like mistakes they were going to make. And I'm sure there was probably a couple in there some of y'all might spot when it comes to technology and how like it didn't exist back then. The only technological mistake that they made, not including of course the Transformers being actual things and the transwarp key, was the fact that Noah's brother's walkie-talkie in Brooklyn could somehow communicate with Noah in Peru, come on now. Come on now. I'm smart enough to know that not only is there no walkie talkie that has that level of distance as far as communication goes, which even with the Transformer, having it, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. I know that even in the early 2000s, that kind of tech wasn't even available because I remember a friend of mine was in Afghanistan and I talked to him once on like phone chat. And when you talk to somebody across the country in the early 2000s, you had to wait. There was like maybe a 5 to 7 second delay when you talk because it was so delayed. The technology, way less satellites. The technology was so much different. And because of that, I just knew that that was to me the only real big logic leap in the movie. I like the scene at the museum where Elena and Noah meet. I like how we see Scourge show up, and I really liked how Scourge actually whooped Optimus's ass. The reason why I enjoyed that, I mean, I liked how before that, the scene in the garage with Optimus and everybody else, they get together. That was cool. Again, very similar to the first movie, except here Optimus does not really like humans, sees them as being inferior, and then by the end of the movie, it actually feels like he has a bond with Noah and a bond with the humans. So what I wanted to say was the museum scene was great. Scourge whooped Optimus' ass. Usually, if you think about it, man, Optimus is kind of like a bit of a Mary Sue in this movie, or in these movies. Gary Stu, Mary Sue, where he's just unbeatable. Like, he is just an absolute, he always wins. And I like how at the end when he beat Scourge, he was weakened. Scourge was weakened by the other, by obviously Noah wearing the armor of Mirage and everybody else, Optimus Primal, everybody else who showed up. So I liked that. And I liked Optimus Prime, like, being like the leader. And I loved, man, Peter Cullen doesn't age, man. Autobots, Maximals, like, just, he still got it after all these years. You know what I'm saying? He's 81 and he is still cooking with his awesome voice. So I like that. I like the museum scene. I like that Optimus lost the fight and they actually killed Bumblebee, and I was surprised. And I was thinking, okay, they're either going to bring him back by the end of the movie or they're going to bring him back, in this movie. And of course he did come back by the end. Of course, Optimus, was going to get revenge because that is his boy. But it was awesome because, he jumps out of the plane with, Mama Said Knock You Out from LL Cool J, another song from the 90s. Man, the soundtrack, bro. Diggable Planets, Nas, Represent. Oh, God, there was just so many songs on here from the 90s. That SWV song, like, oh, man, it was awesome. It was awesome. The soundtrack was so good. Especially if you're a fan of 90s hip-hop, because that early 90s hip-hop, I have so much love for that era, and hearing it in this movie was such a refreshing thing. I really did like Elena's character, too. I didn't talk too much about it in the non-spoiler. The actress has a real cool personality, and I like how, Noah was tempted to be just like Optimus, but she was kind of the one there to, like, tell him, no, that's not really the way. The only way to get there is if we work together. Like, that was good stuff. And I like how she was kind of like the problem solver, of the group. She was kind of like the brains, the archaeologist, the one that was really intrigued by all this stuff. And of course, at the end of the movie, she ends up getting rewarded for it. And we're going to talk about that big surprise at the end of the movie here. So I like the whole story. Like, I like the big final. Well, first, I like how they went to Peru, and Mirage and the Autobots are all there and hiding. Man, those cars look so nice, man. That Porsche that Mirage was, what a beautiful car, dude. What a beautiful car. So what ends up happening is they had the big fight at the end. The big fight at the end, man. It was a lot like the ones from the other movies where it's like the last 45 minutes of the Michael Bay movies, just explosions. But this was a lot easier to follow. And I liked how you had, the Predacons and the Terrorcons with the Autobots and the Maximals. And it's a big-ass battle. They set up the big, the big communication system with Unicron. And let me tell you, man, the voice of Unicron, I'm sorry, but it's nowhere near Orson Welles. And I know Orson Welles has been dead for a long time, but they should have found somebody who had a much more terrifying voice. So, in this movie, I guess Scourge was like basically their version of what Galvatron was in the 86 movie. So Mirage is like almost killed, and then basically he became this big sort of armor for Noah. Now, at first I was like, what? Because it was so weird. But I dug it. I actually dug it. I think some Transformers fans might complain about it. I don't know if there's any precedent to this. I don't remember if there is, but it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes a lot of sense. And it was a cool little, scene. It's better to have Noah, a hero that's actually doing something, as opposed to Shia LaBeouf screaming, Optimus, Optimus, help me, in all these damn movies. This guy was a lot better. But of course, the fight with Optimus and Scourge, the key ends up getting destroyed, and unfortunately, they can't go back. And I love how Prime was going to sacrifice himself, but at the end, they all worked together. Primal, Noah, they all worked together to save Prime from being absorbed, from being sent up into the vortex that was created to bring Unicron to Earth. So, epic, just a really epic. And again, I want to talk about, I know you guys saw it, man. RC was well done. Michelle Yeoh played, she did the voice play. I mean, she kind of did, but I guess you could say that. She played Aerozor, and she was kind of like the guide. I don't remember this character from Beast Wars, but I haven't watched an episode of Beast Wars since I was like, I don't know, 12? I don't even remember, dude. That was so long ago. I've revisited some Transformer stuff in my adult years, but never Beast Wars. I've talked about in the past, like, Beast Wars had some good storytelling, but those early 90s CG effects are very hard to see. And I'm talking about that they're very hard to look at even from back then for me. I was never a fan of reboot and things like that because of that reason. So anyways, the Transformers, the CG looks so good too, man. It was so much easier to watch, so much easier to see than the Michael Bay movies. You could tell what was going on. There wasn't too many things on screen at once. The fights were cool. The battles were, I think, well done. Everybody did the best they could. It wasn't so like I said, it wasn't cluttered. These movies are sometimes very difficult to see what the hell's going on, especially like the Revenge of the Fallen. Remember Revenge of the Fallen, man? That one was like, what were they thinking? But overall, like, would I have liked to have seen more Transformers? Maybe, but I mean, a lot of them were in other movies, and we've seen them, and seeing Primal and Cheetor, I think, was probably enough to satisfy a lot of people. Although there are some Beast Wars fans that probably wish that they had more. But I mean, dude, we've got two really good Transformers movies, not counting the 86 series, Bumblebee in this one, and I would say the '07 one's pretty good. So when you can get a good Transformers movie, bro, we got to be thankful for that. And that's what this was. Stephen Caple Jr. just did a phenomenal job with this movie, with this, directing. And let's talk about the G.I. Joe thing. So yes, they revealed that G.I. Joes exist in this universe. And because this is going to be a reboot if this is a reboot of the Transformers, then I feel like this is going to end up being a reboot for G.I. Joe. Because as we know, we've had the G.I. Joe theatrical films. We've had these movies get rebooted a few times. We've had the Rise of Cobra movie. We've got the one with The Rock, then the Snake Eyes movie. I think now they're going to reboot it again with G.I. Joe being this, secret, government organization higher than the CIA, higher than the FBI, fighting a covert war. Always a cool idea. But the fact that we're going to be getting that in the next movie, well, not the next movie, but there will be and what I said in the non-spoiler was I wasn't sure what to think of it, but there will be a G.I. Joe and Transformers crossover movie that's been announced already from Hasbro. So I do wonder I do genuinely wonder if, you know, I do wonder how they're gonna do it. Is it gonna be like Cobra Commander teams up with Megatron? Like, what is going to happen? Did Cobra Commander see Unicron and the Cobra? Did they like what could they possibly do? I don't know, but I feel like that was a shocking ending, and I'm sure the audience was probably gasping. But it's Hasbro. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, they were the kings of the '80s toys. You know what I'm saying? So I do look forward to seeing what they do with that. The scene was cool though, because I like how the interviewer was like, "No, we've seen everything. You with the big guy, you this and that. You know, we saw it." And he's all like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Keeping a secret." Like, good, you keep a secret. And then of course in the mid-credit scene, Noah repairs Mirage and rebuilds him. So he'll be back. I really hope to see more of Mirage in the next movie. This is not the end because I think Hasbro said they're going to make two or three more Transformers movies, maybe including or not including the G.I. Joe crossover. So we'll see what happens. I thought it was great. I loved the hip hop songs in the movie, A Tribe Called Quest and Nas and Wu Tang. Dude, the movie opened with Cream. It opened with Cream, dude. Oh man, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, y'all. Dun, 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 dun. I'm marking out again, bro. I'm marking out again. Anyways, I like this movie, man. It was a good one. It was the best Transformers movie, not including the '86 one. I had a good time. I'm going to be buying it when it comes out, and it's exciting. I can't believe we got a good Transformers movie. I'm happy. I'm happy. Anyways, y'all, what'd you think? Let me know down below. We'll talk soon.